So what do I mean when I say that people's consciousness can exist in the dimension of sin? What am I talking about? Okay, here's what I'm talking about. Now, you take a person who loves the Lord, who knows the Lord, and who has received the Holy Spirit, someone such as myself or other Christians out there. You take a person like that. Our consciousness resides within us, within our bodies. We have our consciousness within us. God gave us that as a gift. Okay, so wherever we go, whatever dimension we go into, it goes with us. Okay, but that is not the case, okay, for all beings on this earth, because they have not all been given that gift. They have not been allowed to receive self-awareness and consciousness the way that we have it. So in other words, what I'm saying is, there are beings and there are people on this earth who their consciousness resides in the dimension of sin. That's where it is contained to. That's where it lives. That's where their reality is. And they're stuck there. However, this is the interesting part. Their bodies, okay, don't necessarily always have to be in that dimension. So I know that sounds crazy, but we're talking about multi-dimensions here. And science has proven that we live in multiple dimensions already. Okay, there's a physical dimension as well. Okay, there's a dimension that all bodies appear to reside in on this earth. We can agree on that. Most people understand where I'm coming from with that. Okay, but that is not the same with consciousness. Consciousness is a separate thing from a body, and I can tell you right now that there are bodies walking around this earth who their consciousness, their self-awareness is not always in the same place as everyone else is in. So in other words, if a person is not sinning and they bump into one of these people whose consciousness exists in the dimension of sin, and that's where it's locked into and that's where it stays, then those people will almost appear to be dead inside. They will appear to be dead to the person who bumps into them and who sees them, almost like they don't even know what they're doing here, or they don't know why they're here, or they're just wandering around, but they don't really have a... But I guarantee you, in their dimension, the dimension of sin, they do have a purpose. They do have a goal. They do have... But that's where their consciousness resides. So I know this is a very complicated subject. I'm trying to break it down the best I can. I'm sure ancient cultures have gone into this a little bit too, like the Egyptians with the river of Styx and all that, and the lower dimension and this and that. But there really is a dimension, okay, on this earth that anybody can go into. Anybody can go into it by sinning. By sinning, they can go into it at any time, just like that. Just like that. That's how quick you can go into it. And I'm going to explain this in a minute. Now, earlier I was talking about a manufactured way, because these people are clever, and they figured out a way, the evil ones, I'm saying, have figured out a way to actually draw people into their dimension without them actually consciously sinning. Okay, they figured out a way to do this. How have they done it? Through drugs. Now, when I say drugs, I don't just mean drugs on the street. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say drugs, I'm talking about cigarettes. I'm talking about pharmakeia, which, by the way, you can look up pharmakeia. One of the definitions of that is witchcraft, by the way. That's actually a Greek word for witchcraft. Pharmaceutical is where we get that word from. The root word of pharmakeia, we get pharmaceutical. So here's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to skip some of the stuff and just get straight to the point here. Is the evil ones know that their consciousness cannot reside in a dimension where sin is not being performed. Where sin, it is not, they can only remain in the dimension of sin, okay? Their bodies can walk around everywhere. Like how we like, if a person's not sinning, we can bump into one of these beings, their bodies, but their mind won't be there like it is in their own dimension of sin. When you go into that dimension, they're alert and they know what they're doing and they're up to no good, and they live there. It's very hard to explain, but it's not hard to explain actually. What I'm doing is trying to break it down to so that everybody can understand where I'm coming from. Okay, so what am I saying here? Let's back up a little bit. What I'm saying is that they have come up with a way. These witches, these demons, these fallen beings, whatever you want to call them, have come up with a way. Alchemists, some black alchemists, you could call them dark alchemists, have come up with a way to use drugs. Okay, prescription drugs, any kind of drug. If it's a drug, trust me, 99.5% of the time, it can pull you into the dimension of sin without you even knowing it, without a person even knowing it. Because what it does is it alters your reality, it alters your mind. Okay, cigarettes do that too. Now, why is it, if you ask yourself, why is it that cigarettes are the only thing pretty much on this earth that we are not allowed to know what is inside of them? I mean, if you look at the package, there's nothing. Nobody knows what's in those things. The only way you would ever know is to try and research it. And good luck with that, because you're going to come up with all kinds of different things to block that and this and that. But why is it that whatever we buy in any store, food, water, anything, anything else, we look at it and we can see the ingredients that are in it, okay? If it's something that we put into our bodies, we can see what's inside of it, but not with cigarettes. Not those. Never those. And why not? See, now you got to ask yourself, why not? Well, I'm here to tell you why not. It's because the evil ones don't ever want you to know. They don't want you to know what's in there. Because what those chemicals do and what those ingredients do that are in cigarettes is draws you into their dimension. And when you're in their dimension, you're much, much, much more vulnerable than you are when you're not. And we'll get into that in the next video too.